loud, so we had to be louder. You know what I mean? So, because the ego is so loud. It's loud and wrong. And so you have to be louder than it. And that's just what it was at the time.
Right.
Like, there was no way to kind of, you know, to penetrate the consciousness without, like, going to that extreme, because otherwise people can't hear. They like, literally and figuratively cannot hear over the white noise of everything else. But yeah, it's definitely a different, like, phase now where, again, like, we'll talk about this more at a later date, but, you know, we don't really know what to anticipate, but at the end of the day, mom isn't here anymore physically, so she's not taking it on. And so moving forward, it's kind of going to be like, you know, we're not here to convince anybody
anymore.
Nor are we here to debate. We're not going to debate with the fucking ego mind. Like, it's kind of going to be where I feel that all the things that are going to come out, like we said, not just mom, but like these other spiritual concepts, right? All of these things are going to start speaking for themselves.
Yeah,
you know, absolutely. And we can just stay in that very, like, balanced state. Like, yeah, there's moments to bring fire and passion, I think, for sure. That's part of the speaking of truth. But at this point in the game, I think the only way that people are really going to wake up is if they just see it for themselves. They just witness it themselves, and that's how they're going to get it.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely resonate with what Lauren Gorgo said about the eclipse energy that was on October 28th, and that kind of being this ending chapter of, like, these karmic cycles that we've continued to go through, that scorpionic kind of karmic energy when it was in the South Node, in this completion. And she was just talking about how to beat this energy is, or, you know, to not go into lower, you know, obviously higher emotions and feelings are all, you know, okay, you know, but she was, like, just saying of, like, keeping a place of divine neutrality. And that's something where when mom was here, we were all, including her, you know, we were all over this spectrum of highs and lows, you know, and I agree with what Aurora said of, you know, mom had to raise her voice because no one was listening to her. 7 years before we found her, she had been, you know, 7 to 9 years saying that she's Mother God, got no interaction, no attention. But did mom get attention when she met the egos at their level and called them what they were and used their language and did what they did of, you know, get them pissed off and riled up? Then did they have something to say? Then did mom go viral? Then did mom get the attention? Yeah, because she met them at that level. Now that she's not here, we know that doesn't have to happen anymore. So the best thing for all of us is to just remain divinely neutral. There's nothing we can say to convince anybody that there is a female Godhead. There's nothing we can do now that mom's not here to convince anybody that needs convincing that Amy Carlson was embodying the essence of the Divine Mother. There's none of that. There's nothing to prove. Only time will tell. And that's what I've said recently of, there's two options here. Amy Carlson is not Mother God. In which case, when God returns, would love to meet that God and see how it goes. The second option is Amy Carlson comes back. She was actually the Divine Mother in human form, in which case, we told you so. And at any rate, no matter what happens, we don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter from our perspective what's what. And if people, you know, like, that doesn't matter to us. So people saying things to us now that she's not here, it makes it a bit easier because she doesn't have to feel those things. But, like, that's where we're at, whether it's either she is or she isn't, and all of humanity is all going to find it out at the same time. So, you know what I mean?
I remember saying a few years ago, you know, when people would troll us real heavy and you know, and they would just always be like, well, what if, you know, you're wrong? You know, and this is all fake, and you're wrong. And, you know, I would always think back to this story that mom told us many times, which was when she was first starting her mission. You know, she had this dream and she had this vision of what was to come and what her role within it was. And she had not even yet officially started her mission, but she was preparing. She was getting the downloads, the codes, and at the time she was calling it the Great Human Potential Movement. And she was talking to a friend of hers who was kind of spiritual, and, you know, she was telling him about this. And, you know, he asked her the same thing and said, well, what if you're wrong? And she said, well, what if I'm fucking right? That's the question you should be asking. And that was my response a few years ago, too, when people started saying that. I was like, if she's not God, right, it's no skin off my back. Because either way, what she taught us and what we experience with her is the most profound and unique experience we could have ever had that made us infinitely better people. Mm-hmm. So what did I lose? I didn't lose anything. But the question is, what if you're wrong? In which case, you lost everything.
Yeah.
And that's a gamble that everybody took, right? Everybody's betting on their horse. Everybody thinks they're the chosen ones. Ultimately, right? Every religion, if you come down to it, the base of it, is they believe that they are the chosen ones and that they are right and everybody else is wrong. And they're waiting for their day of vindication. And so everybody's bet on their horse, right? And everybody thinks we're crazy because we bet on the fucking wild card horse. But what if that wild card horse wins? Now what? That's a question we don't have to answer.
Right. It's just the same thing of like she either is or she isn't, and we're all going to find out at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's either...
It shall all be revealed.
And it will all be